At the age of 14, Heidi Unruh's mother's grandmother made it from Russia to New York City all by herself. Heidi's father's mother fled the Nazi occupation on one of the last boats out of Hungary and made a new life in the Midwest. These stories of her foremothers' courage and adaptability have always thrilled her imagination as well as shaped her identity. And now she will share the stories with all of us in How My Grandmothers Got Here.
My poem for my grandmother Mildred's 90th birthday. When my grandmother tells stories in her cadenced Bronx voice, the histories tumble and jumble like a steamer holds queasy sway, like street bustle smells of fish and pickles, the heavy march of Cossacks' feet. Retelling becomes memory, becomes story, becomes the cadence of generations. I grew up soaking in my maternal grandmother's stories, and my favorites were of her mother, Rose. Rose's story starts in Russia, where her grandfather was a tax collector for the Tsar. When this patriarch died, the family lost their land and fell on hard times. Rose's mother, Kayla, from whom my daughter gets her middle name, survived by selling bootleg vodka to the Cossack army, a risky business. Kayla saved up enough to send Rose to join her older brother in New York. The first time Rose left home alone, she was only 9 years old. But she was caught by soldiers as she attempted to reach the Russian coast. The story goes, the first time she was caught, she refused to tell the soldiers who she was or where she came from. So they marched her from village to village until finally someone identified her and brought her home. I imagine this skinny, tight-lipped kid flanked by burly Cossacks. Eventually she tried again and was caught again. 2 or 3 times. Rose was 13 or 14 when she finally succeeded in reaching a ship. But the adult that she had entrusted to help her purchase her ticket and provisions disappeared with her money. But thankfully, I was told, a large family took her under their wing, and on the boat in steerage class, the intrepid Rose survived by helping out in exchange for food. When she finally reached Ellis Island, she was met by her brother, who informed her that she had to go work for a living. So Rose became a nanny, cooking and cleaning and caring for a family with 5 kids, not that much younger than she was. And that was the type of housing that she lived in, crowded, smelly, and dark. She worked in a sweatshop for a time, but it was soul-crushing and barely paying. So the story goes that she got herself at a job at a clothing shop when she walked in and started waiting on customers. Later, she married the boss's protege, my great-grandfather Phil, a gentle and loyal man. Rose earned enough to bring her mother, younger sister, and invalid aunt to America. She was always a tough, smart, confident woman. Next to her mother's cooking and her husband, Rose loved playing poker and practical jokes. There's a story involving a pet monkey, but I'm a little fuzzy on the details. And my grandmother Mildred got Rose's sense of flair and fun. My dad's mother has an equally dramatic story of crossing the ocean. So this is my grandmother, Clara, who grew up in Budapest. Her mother, Catalin, was known for her kind heart and her beauty. And Clara's father was a respected engineer and movie producer. Clara was studying to be a professional pianist, and she was engaged to a talented viola player, Paul Roland. In 1938, Paul's string quartet was invited to join the faculty of Westminster Choir College in Princeton, New Jersey. With war looming, Clara knew she, too, had to get out of Hungary. Step by step, she made her plans. She received a full scholarship to study at the Cleveland Institute of Music. She obtained a visa and found an American sponsor. But by that time, it was very difficult to get out of Europe. 4 times she booked passage only to have the ship cancel or, in one case, get sunk en route. Clara kept her bags packed. Finally, one of her aunts found an opening on the commercial fishing ship the Saturnia, scheduled to depart September 21st, 1939. Germany's European invasion began September 1st, but Clara was able to get on a train to Trieste, Italy, to board the ship. She would share a cabin with a young mother with a small baby. And I'll let Clara tell the rest of the story from her unpublished memoir. The reality of leaving all my family behind had not yet set in. At that time, I was simply looking forward to not being separated by an ocean from Paul and to continuing my career as a pianist and teacher. The Saturnia was a large commercial fishing boat that made stops at several beautiful coastal cities. Had it not been for the anxiety caused by the war, the difficult conditions in Europe, the threat of Hitler, the terrible fishy smell of the boat, the seasickness and severe weight loss caused by the rough sea, the lack of minimum comforts, including only one bathroom, and the uncertainty of the journey, the trip could have been considered a luxury cruise. As we approached Gibraltar, a German U-boat surfaced. The Germans held us for 12 hours as they searched for two people they wanted. The cruel reality of war hit us very hard. But finally, we arrived in American waters. The first view of the Statue of Liberty was indescribable. My safe passage not only defied the odds, it also proved that goodwill and kindness could overcome evil. After a joyful reunion with Paul, Clara was the guest of the president of the college, who held a dinner in her honor and informed her that they had also recently hosted the great conductor Toscanini. Her first night in America would be in the same room where Toscanini had slept. Quoting Clara again, "The whole school knew of the romance of my engagement with Paul and had been praying for my safe arrival. The next morning when I arrived at the dining hall, these 6-foot-tall students picked me up, my grandmother's about yay high, and carried me around on their shoulders for everyone to see as they sang thanks for my safe arrival. Despite the evil and tragedy descending over Europe, this demonstration of love confirmed to me that goodness and decency still existed." Clara never saw her parents or sister Lily or most of her relatives again. Most of Paul's family was also wiped out in concentration camps or the privations of war. My grandmother began a new life here knowing only 2 words of English, yes and no. After graduating from the Cleveland Institute of Music, she and Paul settled in Urbana, Illinois, raised 2 sons, and were deeply involved in promoting music education, including helping to launch the American String Teachers Association. My poem for Clara. Her hands, lined with memories, have spanned the seas and scaled the depths. She is straight-backed as the woods, bending only to the wind, bearing offshoots well-planted, roots sunk in stories and melodies. Thank you.